Hace 30 años, resolviendo un problema un poco inusual, encontramos un sueño.
We found a dream to simplify, automatize all that could be automated in system development. The vision that leads us is software for software. That's our purpose. Why we do. That's our mission, that's our daily challenge. It's a different vision. It inspires us to help companies and developers to be more and better applications in a maximum optimized way, to do things easier for those who want to create applications. We have created in Uruguay a technology that is unique in the world. Not just a technology, we have more than that, a new paradigm that is reflected in our product, in our people, in our community. A community that is very robust. It characterizes us and identifies us as something special. 25 years ago, we started with GeneXus. We called the community that was very small at the time, to tell them we had a serious problem and how we planned to solve it. Then we met every single year to tell you what we achieved, what we planned, and what we dreamed. Today, GX25 raises a question: what's next? What's next?
What's next? What's next?
What's next?
¿Qué es lo siguiente?
What's next? Welcome. Good morning, friends, and welcome to our 25th meeting. Regarding last year, this is cheaper. Last year I had to cook, remember? Now this year I had to do something different. I was asked questions and I had to answer many questions. Only a few of the questions I answered appear in the video. When I say what's next, I look up. And why? Somebody saw the video and said, good, because you're looking into the future, you're looking up into the future. But I was looking at Giselle and said, I don't like that, do it again. So that's the... It was good. Let's see what happens next year. But today we have our 25th meeting, and it's going to be the largest. We already have over 3,300 people, and 30 countries represented. Everything is with 30,000 favorite presentations. But for the first time, we have people from over 30 countries. And the last point we have here on the screen, both in the web and the app, people said that they were going to attend over 30,000 favorite presentations. So each of you will at least attend 10 presentations, which is wonderful. For us, the basis of events was content. We want you to come and for 3 days learn, see what is going on, share your experience with somebody else. We want this to be useful. We don't want you to have fun only. We want you to do something useful, to leave with lessons learned. Therefore, we have over 140 speakers and over 200 activities. The activities range from presentations, as we always do, also coffee comes, where you can gather with a group of people and talk about a specific issue. We also have face-to-face meetings. You talk to those responsible for something, and something we started last year and I recommend it for this year. We did presentations and coaching activities. In this case, the idea is for those of you who have an app and want to see or get an idea of how to do something in Android or do design or iOS or in the web in a responsive way, whatever you want to do. We have a group of GeneXus and community experts who will help you interact and will help you enhance the use of your app. So this idea of coaching is very much recommended to you. We tried it last year, it was a success, and this year we have more chances for you to learn from it. These are the tracks we have. These are all the categories. And I want to highlight this because some of these categories are probably not in your radar if you are outside the community. So apart from the traditional ones, look for those which are out of ordinary. For example, the wearables or Internet of Things, because you will see what the future is bringing today. The other thing I would like to recommend is to download the Events app. The Events app is in the store in Android, in iOS, in web, and Windows. I just read it in that order, which is alphabetical strictly, and I wanted the screens to be exactly the same. I don't want to have internal difficulties and people in Android say you did not mention Android or you mentioned me afterwards. They are all the same. I just want you to download this app for two reasons. First, because it's useful for you to use it. When I go to events, I attend many international events, and I see that these applications are not good. We try to have a very good application for you. The second reason is that we use the Salto version, and it has many advanced user interface characteristics. We want you to try them. If you are interested in them to use in your own applications, we have the experts to answer the questions to tell you how to do it with GeneXus. So this is what I recommend, not just the native apps, but also the web responsive. So download the app and try it. Also, I want to mention an important change in this event. At the end, at the closing ceremony, we will not stay here. We'll go to Sodre, a theater. That's in the afternoon of Wednesday. We will finish Wednesday at lunchtime here at the Radisson Hotel, but in the afternoon we'll go to Sodre. Apart from the traditional presentations by Breogán and myself, this is my keynote speech. In the morning I talk about GeneXus, and Wednesday afternoon I'll talk about the sports of the matter. And then we have two outstanding speakers. We have Luis Callejas, a professor from the Navarra University. He teaches management. As you will see, we have always tried to include management topics as part of this event. He's a great speaker. He's great fun as well. And the other speaker, top-level speaker, is Ken Segal. I could introduce him in many different ways, but the best way to introduce him is saying he's the person who worked for Apple and he put the I on the products. iPod, iPhone, that I letter was his invention. He said all products must have this I in the beginning. So Ken will tell you about that and other ideas of his. That's for the closing at the Sodre Theater Wednesday afternoon. But before I start with my keynote speech, I would like to thank all our sponsors. That was the part that has to do with management of the event. Now let me move into the keynote speech. As you know, the name of this event is What's Next? So what is the future keeping in hold for us? When we start speaking, somebody said, this is our event number 25. Why not do something or reflect on these 25 years of events? Why are they so successful and so on, to reflect on that. But then I said, I feel that this is so thrilling. There are so many things waiting for us in the future that I don't like to look back. I don't want to walk down the memory lane. So I will make a few reflections of things that happened maybe in the future, not now. And we will estimate when that will be. The thing is that today we want to do something special, and that's why I changed my keynote. Instead of doing this Wednesday afternoon, I did it this morning. This keynote speech has two parts. one this morning and the other tomorrow morning, where Gustavo Carriquiri and Gaston Milano will address you. I will tell you a little bit about what I think is the new type of applications that we will need in the future. And Gustavo and Gaston will be in charge of doing these things with GeneXus. So in the first part, I will simply tell you about the type of applications we will need in the future, and tomorrow we will be more specific about GeneXus. But before trying to answer the question, what's next, I would like to answer a more simple question, which is, what's going on? What's going on now? So I think that in the world of application development, what's going on is that if I have to do an application, I will need at least to have a good command of these three components. It has to be web, it needs a web component, and today it is fundamental to have native applications. And the other issue is that these applications are probably hosted in the cloud. And this somehow defines the type of application that we want to do. So what I want to do is very briefly go over these points to tell you what has been going on recently. I'll start with web. There are two facts that I want to share with you. First, one of the things that happened in the web development world is a proliferation of libraries and frameworks. Just to give you an idea, these are some of the libraries or framework that we use with GeneXus. There are many more, and they are coming up or disappearing. So my message is, we are constantly working to evaluate which frameworks are necessary, and we include them in GeneXus insofar as they are useful. That is the work we do. This is what we are concerned with. The second important point of what's going on in terms of web is very obvious, but it was accelerated recently, and that is the need for the majority of people to access web pages or web systems, not from a desktop, but from mobile phones. And that has been a strong driver for change in recent years. But recently, this has been accelerating. Just to give you some ideas, when the news say this is developing news, it has accelerated. There's a struggle between Google, Apple, and we now even have Facebook. And what we had very recently, Google announced that any web page that is not mobile friendly, and this is something I will repeat, whatever is not mobile friendly will be removed from the search algorithm. So in other words, it is more and more important for our applications to be mobile friendly. Jose Elias will talk a little bit more about this. It's not very easy to understand, but it's great fun to know what's going on. In practice, mobile friendly means you either need to make a responsive page, or you do a specific web version for the telephone or something to that effect. So this has generated that every time I need to make an application, I'll have a doubt. Will it be responsive? Will it be mobile? Will it be specific for mobile? Will it be native? Ignacio Roqueta will talk about this in his presentation. He will discuss all these issues. So let's move on and see what happened. Another important thing. For us in this community, a very quick way of having responsive applications is having patterns. The patterns should be in the responsive version. Our three most important pattern partners are K2B Tools, PXT Tools, and Work with Plus. The three of them already have patterns in a responsive mode, which is very helpful, and we can get responsive applications right away. Let's move into the mobile apps world. In this world, things are very interesting. And these are the things that are happening. First of all, each of the manufacturers launched a new version of their operation system. We have Android 6, iOS 9, and Windows 10. So we are giving specific presentations on each of these topics. I think it's on Wednesday, on how GeneXus is dealing with each of these versions. The other very interesting topic has to do with the watch. I told you last year that I was wearing a version of the watch. Now I have my second generation watch. Apple has already launched its version. So today, this is very interesting, having applications for the watch. I will go more in depth into this. Another important thing about mobile is that we have a new device, television. Television starts becoming interesting for us. We can program it. With the launching of the last generation of Apple TV and Android TV, the two manufacturers announced that the future of these devices is applications. If the future is applications, for us, these devices become very interesting. We will have a presentation by Fabian Intamusus about the strategies we have in this new device. So the new device is bringing us sources of interest. Cloud. What's going on in the cloud? I believe that one of the most important things from a technical viewpoint is that we are moving into the next cloud generation. We started with infrastructure as a service, where I basically hired a virtual machine, and inside I put whatever was necessary to run my application. Then we moved into platform as a service. We are in a higher level of abstraction, and instead of talking about a virtual machine, I want to hire a service, a database service, or notification service, or image server. So I split from the hardware and the operation system, and I simply want to know about the service we have to work with. This is the trend now. And we, of course, want to pay attention to this, and we are working in this direction. So the message here is we already have work in the cloud, and we work with the most important world providers in this issue, in infrastructure as a service. And we are already working and have done many things in terms of platform as a service. Today, I think on the fourth floor, we have a track devoted to the cloud, and you will see all these issues there. So first, in the cloud, from infrastructure, we move to platform as a service. And then the third step is adoption of the cloud. Adoption has been very quick. I talked to our friends in Japan, and they told me how the adoption was becoming more important. To give you an idea from the community, since we implemented the action of pressing S5 and do prototype on the cloud, we have over 65,000 applications that have been prototyped in the cloud. So with this, the next step is to do what we called GeneXus Cloud. As it's so easy to press F5 and prototype in the cloud, we want to do F6 and do something in production in the cloud. José Lamas this afternoon will talk about this in particular. So if I were to summarize what it means to do a modern application today, I need a web component, I need an native apps component, and a component in the cloud. I'm sure that it is more and more difficult to do this by hand. The cost would be that you require different equipment, so that is very obvious. The question I need to answer is not how difficult it is to do it by hand, but how difficult it is to do it with GeneXus, or how easy it is to do it with GeneXus. Following something that Mariano de la Robla told me, there's nothing as eloquent as action. instead of trying to answer whether you can do it or not with GeneXus, I want to invite Gonzalo Galotti. Please tell us about your example as you work with these applications. Good morning. Thank you for this invitation. I'm here to tell you what we've been doing this year. Together with the Mexican Federation of Soccer, Football, we launched the official application for the Mexican League. It's a native mobile application developed with GeneXus, available for iPhone and Android phones. But why am I talking about this application? Because it happened that a few months after launching it, we have over 1 million users. And this is overwhelming. This figure, we never imagined we would get to this figure so quickly, and it keeps on growing. We have, how old are you, Gonzalo? How old am I? 28. Why? Well, 1 million users before he's 30. Wow. You can tell your grandchildren about it. Well, I have something to tell them, yeah. Well, not just the number of users. Every weekend we have over 400,000 people using the application. They've sent over 80 million notifications to cell phones. The figures are fantastic. So today I think that the application is not only the one that is most downloaded in Mexico in the category of sports, but I think one explanation, one of the things that explains this is that it is the official application of the league, which makes it so visible. But it's also important, this is something that the event stresses, that's the user experience. When we started with the projects, we devoted a lot of time to the user experience. We sat and worked and we thought about that. We incorporated that. What do you mean by user experience? Can you explain? Yes. We thought, for example, we designed the application oriented to the users, not oriented to data. And this methodology is what we are applying in the new projects. Behind it, we think of an application. Why do people use the application? To watch games, to see the results, to learn about their teams. So we solve those scenarios very quickly. And also interesting is you go into the application, you choose your favorite team, and depending on that, all the colors of the application will adapt to your favorite team. So that generated a lot of identity and enthusiasm. The users felt very happy because it all reflected their teams. So having invested in user experience for the construction of this application allows the application to be the most downloaded one. And also the level of reviews. We have over 6,000 positive reviews in Android, which accounts for over 80%. That's 5-star. All are 5-star reviews. And this is end-user application. And end-user is more difficult. They are very reluctant to classify or quantify things. So getting to these results is very important. Another important thing that I have to mention, and we are very proud of, is that it's the first GeneXus application that is mentioned in the Apple Store. In Mexico, you open the Apple Store, and it's first thing you see. So we feel very proud about it. This is a source of pride for the product, for GeneXus, because in order to apply here, your application must be a very good one. You go through screening and approval from Apple experts. They approve your application, and we are very happy about it. This, of course, helped us to get to 1 million users so quickly. So, regarding sometimes they ask us, how do you support this load? We have 1 million users, and during the weekends, hundreds of thousands of people connect. Where do you have that? In the cloud? That's in the cloud. I think this project would have been impossible without the cloud. I have to admit, that's the conclusion. It would have been impossible without the cloud. The cloud allows us this level of flexibility required. During the week, the demand is low. There are no matches during the week. But over the weekends, hundreds of thousands of people connect. So with the help of the cloud, we can increase or reduce the number of servers, and we manage the performance. What do you mean by 35,000 simultaneous users? In 1 second, 35,000 people use it at the same time. This is in Google Analytics. Take a picture to show us next time. Yes, I should have done that. It's really overwhelming. We never saw something like that before. So how do you manage with the servers? You do it in an elastic way? Yes. Every weekend we have 6 servers, and during the week, 2, only 2. That's not that much. No, it doesn't seem to be much. In truth, some applications have even less users and more infrastructure. So the reason is that the GeneXus application are scalable in the cloud. And in spite of this, we work on some things more. And this learning process was incorporated into GeneXus. That's a good point about GeneXus. GeneXus learns from all the projects. And for example, in order to, every weekend we send over 200,000 push per second. There are 200,000, for example, when there's a goal. Yes, when there's a goal, you send 200,000 push per second. And we had to work on this to support it. What do you use to do that? We integrate a supplier of push notifications, which is a PaaS, a platform service. We integrate it in GeneXus, and this allows us to send these crazy messages per second. This brings me to another topic. You did the one for Uruguay as well, right? I did it, yes. That's not working. The Uruguayan one is not working. Okay, it's not working. Because during the weekend I was here, and then I started receiving, maybe it's a platform server, platform as a service. I said, goal from River. I said, that's a mistake. It cannot be River making so many goals. You have to change that, improve it. That's a local joke about the soccer teams. Well, if you're interested in technical teams, I'm going to speak about this week. Do you have something about web? I talked about the web this morning. Yes, of course, all the back end, the access is through the web. We use it, and also they use it in Mexico, in the operation centers. They use GeneXus. And in that back end, can you change technicians? You say this because of Bengochea, the DT in soccer? No, a theoretical question. Well, what about data? Where do you get data from? I enter the data. I spent all night entering data. No, that's a joke. In Mexico, we have an operations center with 10 people entering the data. This is a soccer league system, and we use web service consumer systems, and we update the information in our application. I'll talk about integration shortly. It's a very important topic. So you've also worked with Marcus Island Weber, right? The App Center people. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to add? Yes, one more thing to share with you. This year, a few months ago, we were invited by Apple to go to their headquarters in London. Apple wanted to help us develop this application for the Apple Watch. Just to give you an idea, the Apple headquarters, you cannot take pictures. And Gabriel told me that when they went in, they were standing, they were requested to leave the notebooks and the cell phones, and they covered the cameras with adhesive tape. It was amazing. In Apple, using tape on a camera, that's not sophisticated at all, but that's what they did. But anyway, they took a picture, so they did not comply with don't talk about this. We need them alive until Wednesday at least. Don't give them up. But thanks to them, this application is now available for Apple Watch. This was one of the first applications available for Apple Watch, and it's one of the first in Watch OS 2, which is a new OS for the watch. How useful is it to have it in your watch? Well, I've been using it. The color is not very attractive. I was going to make a joke, but I better keep quiet. Well, it's very useful, especially in terms of push notifications. Notifications become something very personal, and it's good. You don't have to take your cell phone out. I think that for applications oriented to this goal, this is going to be very useful. May I say something else? Of course, go ahead. Please use this application, and you're going to make a presentation on this. Yes, there will be a presentation. You're all invited to attend.
Gracias, Gonzalo.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. Okay, so in order to close this first part of what's going on, I wanted to make two further comments about internal questions of the GeneXus community. Firstly, the name of our company is Artech, as you probably know. Some time ago, we decided not to call it Artech. In the future, the company is going to be called GeneXus. Well, the reason for this name change is because GeneXus is much better known than Artech, and we have invested much more in GeneXus than in Artech. I had trouble in finding Artech's logo. I had to ask marketing to give it to me. GeneXus is the Uruguayan brand that has been registered in more countries in the world. People ask us, are you from GeneXus or from Artech in other countries? So from now on, the name of the company is going to be GeneXus. Anyway, it's going to be a gradual change, because from a bureaucratic point of view, this is a headache, but little by little, the name Artech is going to disappear and GeneXus will prevail. This is the first issue. Secondly, for us in the community, it's very important that today we have a new partner, which is JBCC. This is a very large company in Japan. The turnover is about $500 million. It's the #1 partner of IBM, and in its business line, it has a product called X-Upper in order to capture requirements. We've been working on the integration between X-Upper and GeneXus, and today we have a great pride and honor of having here Mr. Higashiwe, who is here with us.
Please, come on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tell me, why you choose GeneXus? Okay. There are three business segments in my company. The first one is a hardware, software, system product business. Okay. This is going well. Mm-hmm. And the second is infrastructure services. It's also going well. Okay. However, third one is application development. It is my biggest headache. Okay. So the market has been changing, and the client needs is changing quickly. So we need to do more faster and less defect. That's why I picked up GeneXus. Okay, okay, I see. Great. And how do you evaluate GeneXus? Yeah, my team, first pilot project, actually succeeded a year ago. Okay. It's a great success. I met with the CEO of my client. He was so pleased with the result. So based on this great success, I have organized a new business unit, a so-called innovation team. Great. So I want to innovate this market. We love that. We love innovation. So I'm quite confident this team will grow very quickly with your help. Okay. So, great. Mr. Jodal, I have a present for you today. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Thank you. This is a congratulations on your 25th year anniversary and the first day for GeneXus. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Can I open? Yeah, sure. Oops. open.
Wow.
It's rich.
That's
Yeah, this right. That is watch. Oh, good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to talk together. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ok. Bueno, vamos entonces ahora a la segunda
Well,
parte
then,
de la presentación.
we proceed to the second part of the presentation, and we really go to the what's next, what the future brings us. Obviously, many things. The future holds many things for us, but I would like to concentrate on three. I would say there are three trends that are going to modify the kind of application we're going to have from now on. And these three things are very different, but, however, they have some common features. It's three resources that were scarce and now are becoming abundant. I would like to pay a lot of attention to the resources that are scarce and then become abundant, because that is where opportunities are created. And we as people, we tend to ignore these situations. For us, abundance is something that we don't pay much attention to. However, abundance many times creates problems and opportunities too. So I think that there are three fundamental things that were scarce and now are becoming abundant and are going to change the way in which we do applications. Firstly, the APIs are becoming abundant. APIs everywhere. Coming back to what Gonzalo said, the application of the Mexican League is a success for many reasons. One of them is that it was not difficult to get the data. If we had a team from Uruguay, it would probably not have been the same. But for him, it was easy to obtain the information and to integrate with someone else. And a strong trend in the world today is that it's becoming easier to be in contact with big suppliers and big organizations, and we see that they publish their data. And there's an interesting situation. One of them is what we call the movement of open data. This movement is worldwide, and we see governments that publish their information more and more. This has been very good for the governments, but it's also been good for us who use the data, who live on using this data. This is one of the areas, one of the trends. The other area in which a lot of data have been published are the ERPs. The big world ERPs are publishing through some APIs mechanisms their relevant information so that people may interact with their systems. We are working in connectors, and in this event we are announcing two connectors, one with K2B and the other one with SAP. There are going to be specific presentations about each one of these two connectors so that you see how we can interact and make applications with both, and how we can integrate with these APIs. There's going to be presentations, as I said, and I recommend them because I think that this is one of the important things for the future. Anyway, information about governments or ERP data are things that are not very far in our community, but other areas are opening in places that were farther away in the GeneXus community. And now I would like to tell you about e-commerce, as an example. In e-commerce, the large platforms are publishing their APIs. In fact, we have been working for some time with a connector so as to work with Mercado Libre, and there's nothing more eloquent than action. So I would like to invite Karen Brook, country manager for Uruguay of Mercado Libre. Hello, Nicolás. Well, thank you for coming. No, thanks to you for the invitation. Tell me a bit about the API for Mercado Libre. Why is it important? Well, let me tell you what Mercado Libre is, especially for the people who come from Japan and are not familiar with this retailer, which is the biggest online retainer in Latin America with more than 40 million registered users. So for us, it's like a little monster. A few years ago, we decided to open our platform via API so as to have people from outside connect. We wanted to innovate both internally because we use the APIs to create everything we do, as software, app mobile, etc., and also because we realized that we cannot do everything by ourselves. We need to scale much faster. That is why we decided to open it so that people like you and certified developers can have access. And where do you see the opportunities? For example, how can we do things with Mercado Libre? Well, there are opportunities in every step we take. Now our strategy is go to the big retailers like Nike and Walmart, who can sell through Mercado Libre with their own web pages. They have, of course, their physical store and their own e-commerce, but they have to integrate with Mercado Libre. Otherwise, it's very manual. And some things are necessary, like the synchronization of stocks and increasing the prices. And you cannot do this manually because we are talking about companies that have 10,000 products that they publish online. So they have people who help them connect the cables, and they are able to create the whole operation, put the product on the web, sell it, and then print the tags, ship it to the other side of the country. And how can you compete with all this? How can you change the prices? We do competitive analysis. That's great. Let me tell you something about what we are doing with this connector of GeneXus with Mercado Libre. We had to look for an example, and we found an interesting case of a client in Brazil called DealerNet. They have an ERP for concessionary stores. They have installed this ERP in more than 10,000 stores, and with the connector, once they had it, they made an application in 2 weeks, so that the cars that they have for sale could be published by the dealer, what they called seminovo in Brazil, which is used cars. It means not new. So in order to publish these used cars, the dealer can go directly to Mercado Libre. This is good value for the dealer and also good value for Mercado Libre, as well as for DealerNet that now has a new way of doing it and a new model. Well, yes, this afternoon I'm going to have a presentation on the new opportunities and give some examples like DealerNet and what we're doing at a regional and national level. Great, so I recommend this presentation that is going to be very interesting for the community. It's something that we now have in our radar, so you can learn what Mercado Libre is. Thank you. And congratulations on your English. And to sum up this question of the APIs, I would like to make a technical reflection because I like everything that is technical. One of the things that is going on in the world of APIs is that if maybe in 5 years we see that the protocol, the way in which APIs are published are not good, well, I think that there will be an evolution. For me, this evolution is necessary. If I have an API and if a platform publishes an API, what they are thinking when they do an API REST is how the API is going to be used. So in practice, if the platform is used many times for many cases of the users, all the APIs are going to be inadequate for each user and my particular needs. And this is going to have to change. It's a technical question which has to change. For us, it's very obvious, but other companies have thought the same. And I wanted to tell you about Facebook. Facebook launched this language, GraphQL, a short time ago. It's a solution that they found for the same problem that we face. It's interesting. Facebook at a certain point needed to solve the same problem we had. That is to say, a mobile application. And if you have one that is sophisticated, like the one Facebook has, they had to interact with the servers. And with the common API, they found that all APIs were inadequate. The user sometimes found it efficient, but in other cases it was very inefficient. And they ended up developing this language, GraphQL, which used to be private, now it's become public. And like any query language, it has a stream of input. You ask someone what they need to give me, and the other party gives me a reply. The reply comes through JSON. This is not new. What is very interesting is the input language. This is official from the Facebook page. What you see here, therefore, is on the right the output and on the left the input. And if you analyze this language, anyone from the GeneXus community is going to understand it easily. This, for us, is not new. It's a data provider. What is interesting is that Facebook faced the same problem we were facing and found the same solution, which was the data provider. Alejandra Cayano this afternoon is going to give a presentation about data providers, and Graciela Liston is going to explain what happens if we bring together a transaction and a data provider and what will be the result. So I invite you to this presentation by Graciela Liston. This is very interesting, a lot of fun. When we need to create things, we can think freely so as to create things that are very interesting. And when we see that other big companies in the world reach the same conclusion, then we feel very happy. What else is everywhere? What else is becoming abundant? The sensors. We have more and more sensors and better sensors. I was telling you about my watch. This is the second generation. In the first generation, it had a steps sensor, but the heartbeat sensor was not very good. And in this case, the second generation, the heartbeat sensor is excellent. So we are going to have more and more sensor in our bodies, in our homes, in our workplace, etc. The interesting thing about the sensors is not the sensors themselves, which have become better and cheaper, but to what they are connected. That is where the value is, and it's what we call the Internet of Things. That means being to connect sensors. Why do I tell you this? What's the use? Well, because we are going towards new types of applications. Let me tell you an example about the Internet of Things that Victor Villar told me about. He's going to give a presentation in this regard too. He went to Sweden, and in Sweden, when you drive and there's ice on the road, it's very important to drive safely because there can be an accident very easily. So Volvo cars have sensors to detect the ice on the road. This is good for those who drive, but a human being probably has better sensors than a car and knows that there is ice ahead. What is the great value of the ice sensor in the car? If it's connected to some place in the cloud, and that place in the cloud sends a notification to a car that is 1 kilometer behind, telling this car that there's ice ahead, then the value is multiplied as in a network, and this is the kind of value we are going to see more and more in the Internet of Things. In Uruguay, it is illegal nowadays to sell a car without an airbag. I think that in the future it will also be illegal to send a car without a connection. All of the cars will need connections. Or maybe it will be legal, but the price of the car will be much more expensive if they don't have a connector because the insurance will be higher. This is the type of things we are seeing in the Internet of Things. Now the question is, what does this mean for us developers? For me, it's very clear. The Internet of Things for us is the Internet of data. What we are going to have is an enormous quantity of data, a monstrous amount of data, and this changes somewhat the focus when we develop systems. Until now, we had paid a lot of attention to data entry in a system. In the famous demo of GeneXus bill, if you recall this presentation, we spent a lot of time in the demo explaining why it was easy to do an invoice, because the price of the product appeared automatically, etc. The same thing for the customer. But now we have e-invoices. We connect with an API to a certain place, and it tells me what there is inside a container, or another kind of e-invoice. If there is a human being who is entering information, well, I think that this is something that is going to disappear very quickly. But problems are never solved. You just change them for new problems, and the new problem will be now, what do we do with all this data? How can we visualize all this data in the future? How can we show them reasonably? And I think that this is one of the new skills, one of the new important components that we have to develop. Let me give you a very clear example of what I'm talking about. This is a very simple application that was made so as to show climate for a rural or agricultural enterprise. It has, for example, the temperature, the humidity, the wind, etc. And this is information you can find elsewhere. But someone who is in a farm is not interested in knowing the humidity. What they want to know is whether they can use a plane to spray pesticides or not. So the secret of the application is how we can turn a monstrous amount of data in something relatively simple. In this case, it's a plane which has 3 colors, yellow, red, or green. You can spray the pesticides with precautions. You can't do it, or you can do it safely. But this is very complex. It's not as easy as it seems, and it requires a lot of information. So the secret for the applications in the future will be to transform very complex things like algorithms of machine learning, etc., in something that looks very simple. Of course, maybe you can push a button and the plane will explain why it's not a good day for spraying pesticides. But anyway, the important thing is how you don't send the users an enormous amount of data, but you make them visible in a simple way. So this is a way of solving the problem of abundance. I have another problem from the GeneXus community. This is a company that decided to publish a digital newspaper of the company. So far, nothing really new. But the interesting thing is where these news come from. They don't come from someone who is writing them. They come automatically from a database. What they have is a series of algorithms that are running and analyzing what is going on in their database, and they build news around this. For example, if it were a retailer, it would say, at this moment, the branch in Lagomar has had a record bicycle sale. So all these business information, which were difficult to use, has been turned into something much more pleasant, and hopefully the managers in the morning will start by reading these this brochure made by the company about what is going on elsewhere. So we have APIs everywhere, we are going to have sensors everywhere, and thirdly, we are going to have ideas everywhere. I don't think that there's a better time in the history of mankind to have ideas. If we look back 100 years, if someone had an idea to manufacture cars, for example, and compete with Ford, it was impossible to do so from Montevideo, Uruguay in 1915. It was impossible to build a factory because of the scale, the communications, etc. But today you can build an idea and then based on this idea, you can build enterprises, organizations that will change the way in which people interact. And this has been proven in many places. So this is the time to have ideas. But this question of ideas contains a paradox. On the one hand, I tell you this is a great time to have ideas. But on the other hand, the ideas themselves don't have a value. They don't have a value by themselves, because if they had a value, there would be a market for ideas. We would be able to go to a certain market and sell the idea in $5,000. And the buyer will say, great, I will give you two for $2,500, but this market does not exist. Why? Because ideas don't have a value if they have not been tested and implemented in practice. So the ideas by themselves have no worth. The important thing is to implement them. So one of the things that we have seen these last times is that there's a big difference between the people who have ideas and the people who have the capacity to implement the ideas to see whether there's any merit in them or not. So with GeneXus, I was going to say Artech, with GeneXus we want to help people get together, those who have the ideas and those who have the capacity to implement them. In our community, we have a huge capacity of implementing ideas much faster and at a much lower cost than the rest of people who do programming. So we want to help. And what I am announcing now is not a feature of the GeneXus products. What we did was very simple. We said, well, if GeneXus is a software that makes software, why can't we have an enterprise that makes enterprises, a company builder? That is what is called ThalesLAB, a company builder, which we are announcing today. Silvia Jelly is going to make a presentation tomorrow morning, and the first purpose of this company that builds companies is to bring together the people who have ideas and the people within the community who are interested in testing them. So, my friends, this is more or less what I had to tell you in this keynote, and let me summarize what I wanted to tell you. There are three things that are becoming abundant. We have APIs everywhere, sensors everywhere, and ideas everywhere. And this leads to a new generation of systems, a new generation of applications. I don't know very well how they're going to be, but I know which features they will have. They will need. Firstly, they will have to be data-oriented, and this is something we have in our DNA. From the beginning, we said that the development of applications had to be data-oriented. The second component is that the applications have to be mission critical, and thirdly, they should be user experience oriented. The experience of the user is fundamental, and this was not in our DNA at the beginning of GeneXus. We didn't consider it so important, but when we started with mobile applications, we started giving more and more applications to user experiences, and see the tracks in this event about user experience, and you already saw the example of the Mexican Football League. And finally, incremental development. It is very difficult to implement a traditional project with specifications, schedule, and certain resources. Complex things like these cannot be planned. They grow this is what we believe in. That is why we are doing incremental development and taking this development to design too. So this is what we are doing with GeneXus at the moment. And finally, I will end with a sentence that is well known but is not always quoted completely. If I try to reply to the initial question, what's next, Alan Kay would say, if you want to know what the future brings, do not worry about what you are doing via this. The best way of building the future, or the best way to predict the future, is to invent it. We have been inventing the future for 25 years. Thank you very much.
Disfruten del evento.
Enjoy the event.